Alex Kirkland joins us now. Alex, in theory, it's been quite a quiet, non-eventful summer for Barcelona, of course, bringing in Marcus Rashford. Today, though, they made headlines for all the wrong reasons. What happened today?
It's never quiet at Barcelona, Dan. It's never quiet at Barcelona. And yeah, it's been quite a day for them, even by their standards, I have to say. The big one is regarding their pre-season tour, heading off to the Far East for a game in Japan, 2 games in South Korea. At least that was the plan. We got this statement from Barcelona yesterday saying that the game in Japan, the Japanese leg of that tour, was cancelled, blaming what they said was a serious breach of contract by the promoter. Basically, money hadn't been paid to Barcelona to take part in that game. Okay, that's one thing. Then today, we've had a bizarre back and forth in which it's been reported that, in fact, no, Barca would be going out to Japan, then they wouldn't. Our understanding this evening is they will be flying out in the end tomorrow, Friday, to take part in this game in Japan, the first game of this pre-season tour. Of course, not ideal if you're a Barcelona fan who's sort of out there in Japan, eagerly awaiting, watching your team in a game. Not ideal either for many of my colleagues, journalists who follow Barca, who had flown out to Japan before this news first broke and didn't find out that the game had been cancelled until they got off the plane and took their phones off flight mode. So it's look, whether this is Barcelona's fault or not, like I said, they blame the promoter. It certainly adds to kind of the air of chaos that there is around this club at the moment. Things like this, things like the works at Camp Nou when they're going to get back into that stadium, that date being pushed back and back. Like I say, in this specific case, as we speak, it looks like Barca will be flying out to Japan on Friday. But I mean, there's plenty of time for that to change again. Who knows?
And of course, part of that squad that in theory will be flying is Marcus Rashford. What was interesting, Joan Laporta speaking about the signing of Rashford, Alex, and spoke about the fact that, forget Williams and Luis Diaz, he was the one that he wanted. There were several options, and I'm very happy because we ended up getting the option that I liked the most. It's true that I also like Luis Diaz, a very complete player, but due to his circumstances with Liverpool, very entrenched. It was complicated, although I appreciate the player who always wanted to come. So was Marcus Rashford the best option because of his skills or because of his finances, Alex?
Yeah, it feels like this is the message from Laporta. I don't know, maybe aimed at Rashford, saying, no, look, you were our number one choice. Honest, like you say, it does beg the question, why were they going for Nico Williams? Why were they going for Luis Diaz? Now, what Laporta says is that they were, the interest in Rashford has been long-term, and it has been long-term. Barca have been interested in Rashford going back years now. That is certainly the case. But he says that was going on in the background. There was the Diaz situation, which could be very difficult getting him out of Liverpool. And then he says sort of the option of Nico Williams was presented to him by the player's agent and by Deco, the sporting director, and that Deco was on board. Of course, we heard Deco earlier in the window talking about how much, confirming that Barca were interested in Nico Williams. So Laporta says that option was presented to them. They then naturally had to kind of explore it and see if it was possible. In the end, it wasn't possible because the finances, he says, they were sort of somewhat misled in terms of how that deal could be done. Nico Williams stays at Athletic Club and signs a new deal, and that's when the Rashford deal comes to fruition. But yeah, it does feel like a little bit of saving face from Laporta, even if, as I say, this is a player that no question Barca have been keen on for a long time.
So he's basically blamed Deco for everything.
Well, look, if you're the president, that you can blame whoever you want, and everyone has to sort of nod and smile and say yes, boss, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. It's like being married. Anyway,
I'm sorry, excuse me? What?
Meanwhile, Ter Stegen, Alex, we know he's going to be out for 3 months with a back injury. We've talked a lot about his future, haven't we, at the club, given the fact he had this meeting where Hansi Flick said, look, you're going to be third choice going into the start of the new season. Are they kind of stuck with him now?
It's very interesting that the way that this news has come out, the fact that Ter Stegen came out and published this news before the club confirmed it themselves, and the fact that Ter Stegen was very specific, as you say, in saying, I think I'll be out for 3 months. Now, that's important because we've seen Barcelona last season using a long-term player absence, which the rules state is 4 months or more, to help them out in terms of their registration problems. They did it last season with, I think it was Andreas Christensen was out long-term. They used that absence to be able to get some registrations done for the first half of the season. And they're in a similar problem now. They're facing issues registering some of these new signings like Joan Garcia. And so in theory, the absence of Ter Stegen could be used, much like last season, to register effectively his replacement in Joan Garcia. But Ter Stegen coming out and saying, no, 3 months, I think I'll be out for 3 months. It does make you wonder, is he doing this on purpose, you could interpret it that way and sending a message and trying to make that more difficult for the club. Now, of course, ultimately, it's not the player who decides how long he's out for, it's the doctors. He'll have the surgery, they'll assess it afterwards, and they will, the experts will say, we think you'll be out for this long. So in the end, what Ter Stegen thinks in terms of how long he'll be out for isn't really the issue here. But like I say, the fact it comes in this context of Ter Stegen effectively, being the club captain, but not really being wanted, the club wanting it to be Joan Garcia and Szczesny as his number two, it made, like I say, some of the details that Ter Stegen chose to include in that statement really quite interesting.
What a power move.
Well, yeah. Well, is there ever a convenient time to have a back surgery?
Wow.
Because that seems to
be 4 months. No, it's going to be 3, trust me.
And this is exactly what has happened here. Ter Stegen, whether he realized it or not, I think he did, was on his way out of Barcelona. The math just didn't add up for Barcelona. And now this back surgery somehow keeps him in Barcelona for a very specific amount of time. And I'll be out for 3 months, and I'll be back, and I will compete because I'm trying to be the number one for Germany. And, here we go, Barcelona, I love you. Again, a convenient time for a back surgery, does that even exist? Is that such a thing? But this back surgery, in my estimation, actually somehow, in a weird, dramatic way, helps out Ter Stegen and his status at Barcelona. Because we don't know what Joan Garcia is going to be for Barcelona. And we don't know whether Szczesny is going to be healthy or not 3 months from now. He's bought himself some time. And what about if Joan Garcia comes in and actually has a shocker? By being out, Ter Stegen has actually helped his case with Barcelona. It's really weird, but it's very Barcelona-like.
One more thing, Alex, before I let you go. Mosquera has gone from Valencia to Arsenal. That has been confirmed. What sort of player are your side getting?
Yeah, he's a really exciting player. He's a young talent. I think he's got a raw talent as well. I think he's got a lot of really interesting ingredients in terms of his pace and his strength and on the ball as well. But he's a long way from the finished article. I'm not sure how much he'll play at Arsenal. We know that they've got one of the best centre-back pairings in anywhere really in Saliba and Gabriel. Mosquera is not going to displace either of them from the team in the short term or even in the medium term. But as a backup option, as a third choice, perhaps a fourth choice option, a younger option, a player who can develop and grow. I think he's a really good one. Certainly one of the best young defenders in Spain in the last year or two. Like I said, with 1 or 2 flaws in his game, but flaws that he could easily iron out over time. So I think it's a great signing it's a great move for him, and I think it's a good signing for Arsenal as well.